Welcome back to the Undue Summer School. We've reached the final stop in the IT phase, where we've been zooming out and focusing on systems and strategy and big picture. And this is a big one. This one is called working on it, not just in it. And by it, I mean the business, right? So it's all about developing strategic thinking, not as an occasional leadership task, but as a mindset, as a muscle, as a way of seeing and doing. Strategic thinking isn't just for execs in glass-walled boardrooms, and it certainly doesn't require a PhD in market analysis. It is for anybody who wants to lead better, grow faster, and stay relevant. So let's get into it. Our heart lesson for today is why strategy can sometimes feel quite hard, but why it's also really important. Let's start with a confession. Another confession. Usher has got nothing on me. There have been seasons in my career when I was absolutely buried in the day-to-day, just firefighting and ticking off tasks and hopping from one meeting to another. You know the drill. In those moments, strategy felt like a luxury I could not afford. I'd look at the leaders around me who had time to think big, and I'd roll my eyes while answering 47 emails and rescuing another last-minute mess. But over time, I realized if I never lifted my head, I would never move forward. And neither would the people around me. Strategy isn't about being above the work. It's about making the work better, clearer, smarter, and ultimately more aligned. It's the difference between doing the thing and understanding why you're doing the thing, how you could do the thing better, and whether it's even the right thing at all. But it's also something I think is deeply human. Strategic thinking allows you to spot patterns, to challenge assumptions, and help your team connect their actions to something bigger than just a calendar invite. And when you start seeing the system, you can stop getting stuck in it. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's do our head lesson. And this is what strategic thinking really looks like. So often strategic thinking is reduced to big picture planning, those quarterly business reviews and 5-year roadmaps. But true strategy, that lives in the questions we ask every day. So here's what I think strategic thinking actually should involve. 1, zooming out and zooming in. The best leaders toggle between the two. At the micro level, they can spot inefficiencies and improve team rituals. At the macro level, they can sense shifts in the market and position their function for the future. So strategic thinking is less about where you're looking and more about your ability to shift perspective in and out. Number 2, asking better questions. So instead of saying, what are we doing next? Ask, why are we doing this? Is it still the right thing? Instead of asking, what's the goal? Ask, what does success actually look like and what are the trade-offs? Instead of asking, how do we keep up with them? Ask, where do we lead? And where is it okay for us to follow? All right. 3, understanding your ecosystem. You cannot be strategic in a vacuum. And I'm not just talking about what your team is doing. I'm talking about what's happening around you. So what I mean by that is what's happening in your industry. What are your competitors doing? What is changing customer behavior? What's coming down the pipeline in terms of tech, policy, culture? And yes, sometimes it's about the money. A few years ago, I had a brilliant boss, remains one of my favourites to this very day, who would regularly ask our team a simple question. What's the share price today? The first time he asked, we all froze. It was silence. Most of us had no idea. But it wasn't about the stock price itself. It was about cultivating awareness. Even when we are deep in the day-to-day, he was teaching us that if you're part of a business, you should understand the business, how it's doing, why, what's driving performance or decline. Not to chase metrics, but to contextualize our efforts. How does the work that we are doing right now ladder up to something bigger? And yes, every time we had a team meeting after that, you better believe that we all knew what the share price was and we all had this informed take on whatever was influencing it. It was like suddenly we turned into the FT newsroom. It stuck with me, though, as one of the most practical and accessible lessons in strategic thinking. And it came from someone who combined deep expertise, real-world smarts, and a deep well of empathy. Truly a killer combo in any leader. 4, bring meaning to metrics. I mean, we talked about this last week, but no harm in saying it again. OKRs, KPIs, SLAs, woof. Endless amounts of jargon with very, very little clarity. But strategy is often embedded in those numbers if you know how to read them. KPIs are not just performance tools, they're signals. If we're missing a target, don't just say, how do we fix this? Ask, what is this telling us? And if your metrics don't align with what matters, change the metrics. 5, make room for strategic thought. You cannot think strategically if you're running on empty. You can't. Strategy needs white space. It needs rest. It needs reflection, and it needs time to connect the dots that don't connect themselves. You're not being indulgent by taking time to think. You are doing the most senior part of your job. I have to add one more thing here, okay? And this, I'm going to call it the optionality of engagement. Bit fancy, but I just want to have a moment for some real talk. Not everyone is trying to be a strategic operator, and that is okay. Some people want to come in, do their work well, and clock out. That is by no means any kind of failure. That is just a really clear boundary. We all have different relationships with work, and those change at different life stages too. So don't shame people or yourself for not playing the game. But if you do want to play it with clarity and play it with intention. Okay, so our hands lesson then is, how do you go about building your strategic thinking muscle? Don't worry, you do not have to start big. You don't need to go and get yourself an MBA or go to some business strategy retreat to think more strategically. I'm going to give you 5 simple ways to start. 1, schedule thinking time. It's that simple. Just give yourself 30 to 60 minutes every week as strategy space and use that time to read, reflect, review trends, zoom out on your team's progress, or just jot down ideas. Number 2, run a monthly retrospective. You can do it alone or do it with your team. Ask what's working, what's not, what's changed in our environment, where are we wasting energy? Number 3, subscribe to industry insights. There's a lot of brilliant people out there doing the heavy lifting. All you need to do is read or listen. So subscribe to the right podcasts, newsletters, analyst updates, not just for your industry, but look at adjacent ones too, because innovation often happens in that in-between, and you can always just still with pride. And side note here, don't be greedy. If you have read or heard something that's really interesting, share it with your team, share it with your colleagues. We can learn so much more if we learn together. 4, be the question asker in the room. Ask the questions that nobody's asking, especially the ones that challenge the status quo. You're probably not the only one thinking it. Now, I do not mean that you should be a contrarian for the sake of it. Instead, be a curious challenger. 5, build your leadership radar. And this just takes practice. Keep a list of patterns, signals, and stories that you're noticing and where they're starting to connect into a broader narrative. Build your gut instinct by feeding it with different perspectives. So just to remember, strategic thinking isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the most curious, the most aware, the most connected to what's happening beyond the immediate task at hand. So whether you are a team leader, a rising star, or just a thoughtful contributor, it's worth asking, am I just doing the work or am I shaping what the work becomes? If you want me to come in and help run a session on strategic thinking, head to thisisworkwell.com/work with us. It's one of my favorite trainings to deliver because I really love building workplaces where smart thinking isn't siloed, it's shared. And we are almost there. I cannot believe it. This is already the end of the it phase, but there is one more episode remaining. Next week, we finish the Undo Summer School on a big one. We're going to be talking about promotions. Yes, you heard it here first. We're talking about promotions next week. So be sure to listen in next Monday. Until then, have a fantastic week. Bye.